It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So my friends, we often hear, when we're hearing something, we hear there's always three sides to a story. You know, your side, their side, and the true side. Wouldn't it be nice that anytime we hear something, we just go right to the true side? Well, today we're going to talk about some facts. Talk about what's happening in the country today, what will be happening in November. I would think, from what my experience, this is probably one of the most important elections ever that I could remember. So today, I thought we would present some facts, only facts. This is the true side. I have on the show former Congressman Lou Barletta, no stranger to the Sam Lesante Show, or for that matter, all of Pennsylvania. Lou has been involved very heavily with the President of the United States, presented his name to be on the ballot for Pennsylvania, was invited to the inaugural acceptance, Trump's acceptance. Just recently, as of he has had some at the White House with meetings with the President. So, Lou, thanks for coming on the show.
Good to be on, Sam. Good to see you.
Okay, so talk about two things. Okay, your affiliation with Trump started way back. Okay, why did you decide that you thought Trump, which even without knowing that much about him?
Well, Sam, when I went to Congress, I got to see things behind the scenes that a lot of Americans don't get to see, and I became as frustrated as everyone else was with the fact that Washington wasn't listening to the people. There were so many problems that they wanted Washington to take care of, and they weren't. And then along comes a non-politician, Donald Trump, a businessman, and it seemed from the very first speech he gave, I related to what he was saying about it. As you know, I was fighting the problem of illegal immigration here in Hazleton, and it seemed like everything he was talking about, he was talking directly to me, and many Americans felt the same way. And I realized that that's what I wanted in a president, not a politician, not somebody who had scripted lines, but somebody who actually understood what the American people wanted, the forgotten men and women who I understood, were left out of all the conversations. So I was one of the first in Congress to endorse then candidate Donald Trump. Because of that, I was able to have a very good relationship with him, got to know him very well, saw what he was about, and really, once I got to see the real Donald Trump, I was sold 100% that he was the best thing for our country.
So when he became the president, he started putting forth a lot of things that would make the country much better. We saw the highest unemployment, right? Well, give me an example of what he accomplished.
Well, Sam, we've never seen an economy like this in our lifetime. It was the greatest, up until the coronavirus, it was the greatest economy we've ever seen, especially here in Pennsylvania. But he stood up for more than that. He talked about, bringing jobs back to America. He talked about the men and women, the forgotten men and women who work and saw their jobs taken away. He also, did things that were so pro-American. He talked about, if you remember, you couldn't say Merry Christmas under the Biden-Obama administration. The stores stopped displaying Merry Christmas, right? It was Happy Holidays. He said, we're going to say Merry Christmas again in America. And then he started talking about protecting life, the value of life, and the flag, and our veterans, and all the things he said. It was like, that's what I grew up with. They're the values here. They're the values of our people here. He has literally transformed this country back to where I think most of us are very proud of. His accomplishments are incredible. Lower taxes, business, manufacturing coming back, built up our military, taking care of our veterans. All the promises he made, building the wall, all the promises he made, he's kept.
So with the success that he has had, all right, fighting a lot of elements, why do you think then he still has 90-some% of the press fighting him and want him out as president? And why do you think, you know, they fabricated, when I'm saying they had the Russian investigation, I'm not going to say hoax, they had the, they tried to impeach him. And now, of course, they're making heyday with the COVID-19, all right? Your opinion on some of those areas I just mentioned.
They've hated him from day one. They've hated him from the time he came down the escalator and announced he was a candidate. He was an outsider. You know, he wasn't part of the Washington bubble that many, you know, people who are there are part of it. And the media was part of it. And he called out the media for their dishonesty and how they report it. And I mean, till today, he's gotten, of all the news articles and how they cover him, 92% of it has been negative. Never talking about his accomplishments, but always trying to find something. You know, the fact that the FBI, you know, they were listening to his conversations, the Russian hoax that he talked about, that's all you would see on the news every night. You know, and then when it was found that it was a hoax and the Democrat Party and Hillary Clinton were involved in it and the media covered it up and the FBI was involved, they went on to something else. It's like on and on and on. Then the coronavirus came and this was like their last great chance.
Yes.
Their last great chance. None of the other things worked, but now, you know, they want to use a pandemic as their reason that why he shouldn't be the president. Why don't they talk, why doesn't Joe Biden talk about their policies, their radical, crazy policies that they will put forward on the American people instead of everything Donald Trump has done wrong? That's the only thing they want to talk about, and the media helps them.
You and I had some interviews with the coal contractors in this area, and we talked to what the coal and the difference of how important coal is today in not heating but in other areas. We also found out at the time that when coal is sold, every ton, there's a certain amount of money that goes back to the pension people, right? All right, so with that being said, according to what Joe Biden said, he was going to eliminate fossil fuels. Now, I asked you before the show, I said he was here in northeastern Pennsylvania. Was he asked that question, that, you know, if that happens, so we know hundreds of thousands of people will lose their jobs. So what was his response?
Well, now, Sam, he's been in Washington for 47 years, so I'm not going to quote something he said 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 40 years ago. I'm going to quote things he said last year on a CNN debate. He said he would absolutely, fossil fuels would be done in a Biden administration. And then at a campaign event a year ago, he went up to a supporter who was there. He lifted up his baseball cap and he said, "Look into my eyes. I will guarantee you, I will put an end to fossil fuels." How much more clear can, then he comes back to music and tries to think that people can't research what he just said the year before. You can't have it, you know, both ways. So, and then he puts Kamala Harris on the ticket, who we know, you know, she supports the new Green Deal, where it would put an end to fossil fuels. And if anyone thinks that Joe Biden could ever finish a term had he won, obviously there's things going on, there's some kind of problem going on, she becomes the president. You know, all the jobs that would kill here in Pennsylvania. We have become an energy exporter, where instead of depending on other countries for our energy, we now export that energy, and they would put an end to it, killing so many jobs.
Okay, so I'm trying to get logic here. I'm trying to get to the true side. If you're working, and if I'm an African American, and I didn't have a job, I am now working. If I'm Hispanic, I didn't have a job, I'm now working. Female, more female, and more females getting executive positions, all right? Also protecting the unborn baby, okay? And that's another whole story. Why then, why would I be against that?
I don't know. You know, I just think, you know, the contrast couldn't be any greater between the two candidates. You know, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania in 2016, and he hasn't changed. He's the same Donald Trump that he was in 2016. But what has changed? the Democrat Party has changed. They have moved so far left. I mean, we grew up in an area where just about everybody was Democrat. I was Democrat. My family was Democrat. You know, the values, you know, there were these Catholic, pro-life Kennedy Democrats that was throughout northeastern Pennsylvania. How do those folks support a party that would not only abort a baby in its 9th month, but if the abortion was botched up, you can still kill the baby after it was born? How could any pro-life Catholic Kennedy Democrat support that?
When you get an answer for that, let me know. I'm having a whole show on pro-life, people coming on, and it's a whole thing. Before I go to break, folks, we're talking about the election. And I know some of you who are staunch Democrats and have the Biden signs and the Trump signs, or sometimes you get, you know, we get a little nervous and upset. But here's an interesting thing before we get a break. What they left out at the Democrat National Convention. And you think about this. I know there are many staunch Catholics out there that go to church, and some of them are even Eucharistic ministers. Here's what they left out. At the Democrat convention, the Pledge of Allegiance was read with the words, "Under God, removed." Removed. And with crime on the rise, no one mentioned law and order or support our police. Joe Biden and the radical left applauded themselves, attacked America, and once again turned their backs on us. What do you say to that comment? Is that factual comment?
Yeah, there's no question. There's no question about it. I mean,
they're pretty strong words.
They're strong, but it just shows you how radical and how far left this party has gone. I mean, look at the riots across the country. I mean, who would ever think, Sam, that we would see in America where literally there would be riots? These are not protests, and they try to pawn them off as protests. Only now, because they see the polling numbers, are they beginning to speak up. Where were they when people were destroying businesses, innocent people, tearing statues down, burning the flag, and they sat quietly? And these were all Democrat-run cities, Democrat mayors, Democrat governors. And that party has sat back. I didn't hear Biden, I didn't hear Pelosi, I didn't hear any of them speaking out. I didn't hear all these movie stars and all these basketball stars who I really believe, you know, just have an anti-American language, how they feel. Where were they when all of this was going on? And on the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who wants us to stand for the flag. That flag represents all the veterans and people that fought for our freedoms. To defend that flag, you know, I always say, you know, under Donald Trump, you know, we're going to stand for the flag and kneel when we pray. So the contrast between the two, I mean, this is just a preview of what we're going to see, because it won't be Joe Biden running the Democrat Party. It's going to be AOC and Bernie Sanders and those that have really hijacked the Democrat Party and taken it to a pathway to socialism.
The thing, I know some people who are friends of mine, you know, they love Biden, okay, and they think that he's going to make a great president. And I don't hear to change anybody's minds. But sometimes it's like a doctor. You may not like the doctor, okay? However, the doctor has the cure and is able to take care of you, all right? Some people think Trump is racist. Now, when they say racist, you've been with the president a long time. I've interviewed Nick Adams, who is now on the president's, one of his committees, and everyone, Dan Muser, everyone who has been involved with Trump have always had the nicest things to say when they meet him in person and spend time with him. You, more than anyone, spend more time with him. Is he racist?
Oh my God, the complete opposite. That's such a baseless mischaracterization. I mean, it's just incredible that they could even say that. I mean, he's had, prison reform, the fact that, African American unemployment's at an all-time low, Hispanic unemployment's at an all-time low, opportunity zones that he's bringing into the inner cities. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And the fact is that the Democrat Party has taken the minorities' vote for granted. They think that because they're a minority. I mean, Joe Biden said it. You know, hey man, if if you're not voting for me, you ain't black. I mean, you talk about putting people down and taking their votes for granted. They have done this for years and gotten away with it. And then along comes somebody who actually does something for them. And then they want to reverse it and say, hey, remember, you can't vote for him, he's a racist. Really, Sam, I mean, it's amazing, but I think the African American community and many of the minorities and the Latinos are really waking up to see that he is standing for us. When they talk about defunding the police, the Democrats want to defund the police. Who does that hurt? That hurts minorities in those neighborhoods who need the police. 80% of them polled said that they don't want to defund the police, they want to be safe. Mm-hmm. So why would these minorities then believe Joe Biden when they say that, you know, we're for you and he's not?
How the press could let them, some mayors get away with a lot of stuff. We talked to, you and I talked to this, I won't mention his name, columnist, artist, and not artist, but writer, book yep. right now. And he told me that de Blasio, and he worked for the Times, mm-hmm. he told me that Mayor de Blasio has actually literally destroyed New York City. I spoke to a person who was business there, and she said it's so sad that there's no energy in the city at all, okay, and that this reporter said that he didn't think Blasio, is it the mayor of New York City, would not make dog catcher. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. So with that going on, why then aren't these people made be accountable? And that's why I always have my concern. I mean, I see the press could, you know, be both sides and present facts. Why don't they call this, why aren't they accountable, what they're doing to these cities?
Well, because they have become, unfortunately, they've become the arm of the Democrat Party. They have teamed up. They have literally teamed up. Their hatred for Donald Trump is so deep that they have literally teamed up to again, cover up all of this stuff, all these riots that they continue to call protests. I mean, what is a protest when you're burning an innocent person's business down, destroying these cities, what they're doing? You know, Sam, 43 police officers were killed in the line of duty, were killed. Why aren't they talking about that? Why aren't they talking about the men and women who go out to protect us, to keep our neighborhood safe, to keep our children safe? You know, why is it that they don't, that one of them are killed, that it's not a bit, why don't we learn their names? You know, why isn't their names, you know, on basketball uniforms or on, you know, in football uniforms? You know, it's sad what's happened to this country, and that's what this election is about. Because if it disgusts you now, just wait. If the radical left takes over the White House and takes over Congress, what America will look like.
At the convention, my friends, remember I said the three sides? At the National Convention, under God, law and order, support our police, were not mentioned. Could you imagine saying the Pledge of Allegiance there and they actually took out under God? Goes to show you what's happening. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember ssptv.com, all of our programs there. Comcast 190 in Pottsville, we're on every night from 7 to 11 p.m. On the Service Communications in the Wilkes-Barre Mountaintop area, Channel 92, every Saturday and Sunday evening from 7 to 11 p.m. And of course, Comcast 190 in Lackawanna, Saturdays and Sunday mornings from 8 to 11. My guest is former Congressman Lou Barletta. We're talking about the election. This letter to the editor, a warning from 2016, still stands. Trump is dangerous. This is from Doug Demsko, West Hazelton, United States Air Force retired. He put in his letter to the editor, Trump is nothing but a bully, a failed businessman who has developed following of mindless fools who are cult-like. He has diminished America's standing as the greatest nation on earth. He cuddles white supremacists and brutal dictators while belittling our allies around the world. He boasts about a great economy. Don't forget, He inherited a strong economy from President Obama, who when he took office faced economic on the verge of Great Depression. And then he goes on to talk about the biggest test for Mr. Trump. He said, I can't even call him president, came in his mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic. He was briefed twice in January on the dangers of the pandemic on the horizon. He ignored these briefings when Americans began getting sick and some were dying. He said only 15 or so casualties will occur and will go away. Response.
Well, I've never seen such hatred in people who literally, the name calling and the hatred that comes out for Donald Trump. Sam, if President Trump didn't stop the flights from China against recommendations of everyone around him, you know how many more people would have died? Would have died. And at the time, Joe Biden criticized him and said that he wouldn't have done that. Now, how could somebody who supports Biden, who would not have done what the president did, stopping flights from China into the United States, knowing that if Biden was the president, how many more people would have died? The response to the COVID really wasn't that the president didn't do a good job. The president did a great job. He stopped these people from coming into the United States who were infected. The problem is our governors around the country who ignored the fact that people were traveling into our state. I was very, very critical of our governor here. People were coming in from New York. I tried to warn them what was going to happen here in Hazleton. Coming in back and forth from New York, not being quarantined, no social distancing, and it was ignored. And then if you look at the majority of the deaths in Pennsylvania, it wasn't President Trump who did it. It was our own governor who allowed positive COVID people to go back into our nursing homes, the most vulnerable of all people, and spread the virus. That's where most of our deaths came from. So how can anybody blame the president? You know, look where we've come now in this short time. The control. You talk about socialism and where they want. These Democrat-run states, in a very short time, in a matter of months, can tell you what business can open, what business can close. And if we do allow you to open, how many people can come in, whether you have to wear a mask, what time you can close, what's essential, what's not essential. They have literally taken control of people's lives in a very short time. That's just a taste of what our country will look like.
He said that Trump inherited the strong economy from President Obama.
We had one of the worst economies leaving. You know, under the Biden, the Biden-Obama administration, you know, they had lost 51,000 jobs here in Pennsylvania. Under President Trump, manufacturing jobs. Under President Trump, we gained over 200,000 jobs and over 16,000 manufacturing jobs. You remember when President Obama said, how's he going to bring back manufacturing jobs? Is he going to wave a magic wand? But he did it. Biden and Obama, with higher regulations, higher taxes, we watched businesses go overseas, leave America. People lose their jobs. If you remember during that time, Sam, people were losing they didn't know if they were going to be working, if they were going to be able to take care of their families. Under President Trump, we've seen one of the greatest economies, wages rising until the virus hit.
He says our allies are not, he's made some, he's with brutal dictators while belittling our allies around the world.
We're watching the Middle East. I mean, just look what you're watching. What president has been able to do that? Look what you're watching. Something that they said nobody could ever be done. It's just amazing. People that live in this fake reality of what they wish, would happen under Trump, rather than looking and seeing what he's being accomplished. The problem is that it depends what station, what channel you watch. He probably believes that because that's what he's being fed by those news media.
Well, the interesting thing is, Lou, that I think people could see what's going on. I'm embarrassed to be in the media today because of what I see. And it's not that because they should be for Trump.
No.
If it was reversed, if
Right.
if they were for Biden and it was 90, it would be the same way. It's not fair. Senior citizens are being sucked into a lot of nonsense and being threatened that they're going to lose this, etc. But their 401ks, all their retirements are increasing. They're getting more from that. So it's sometimes difficult to, you mentioned a case where, I won't mention a particular, where who you are, that a particular person wouldn't even see you in a medical profession, okay? That's so sad things come. So sometimes you say, well, you want you want this, like you tell your kid not to do this after a while. So, okay, go ahead. Then all of a sudden they have to pay the consequences. Yes. Well, anyway, it's going to be an interesting election. In closing, why do you think this is such an important election?
Well, I think we're at the crossroads of the two different Americas. One America where we still have our own freedoms and democracy, and we stand for the flag, we kneel when we pray, we defend our police, we defend our military and our veterans. We're proud of our country. We're not embarrassed of our country. And you have another party who's really embarrassed of what America has become and want to change that and go to a socialist country. So I don't think the choices could be any further apart.
I can't really understand why they left out at the National Convention the Pledge of Allegiance was read with the words "under God" removed, and crime was on the rise. No one mentioned law and order or support our police. Joe Biden and the radical left applauded themselves, attacked America, and once again turned their backs on us. I mean, I ask you, this is a fire. If it's true, I don't think they could print this if it was not true. Well, folks, just try to get as much information as you can. Try to stay civil. Agree to disagree, but not to talk to people. Ignore them because I'm for this person, you're for that person. Don't you think that's a little silly? We'll see you next time.